Hello, everyone, and welcome to this episode of Behind the Wrestler. My guest at this time is none other than the legendary Jace the Jace. Thank you very much for taking the time out and giving us a little insight of yourself.
You're welcome. How you doing?
I'm good. First and foremost, who, when, and where inspired you to become a professional wrestler?
Who, when and where? That goes way back. My father was a massive wrestling fan, British wrestling. He went to, we lived in London, he went all South Coast. Whenever there was wrestling, he would do it. For himself, he would try and he wanted to take it up himself. Doctor said, no, you're too old, you're like 55, for Christ's sake. High blood pressure, and so on. So he had a word with me, tried to convince me to do it. Sort of like wasn't my thing, you know. I've got judo as a background, but stepping up to wrestling, it wasn't my way of thinking. Anyway, he took me down to Worthing, a lovely seaside venue, with Mark Rollerball Rocco as the headline. He was on with a deaf and dumb gentleman called Alan Kilby. Mark Rocco smashed him over the head, cut him open. I looked at my dad, give it your effing joking, I'm not doing that. Anyway, after a couple of weeks convincing, they took me down to the gym, and that's where it all stems from. My father, bless him.
And, you know, going through your first day of wrestling training, how do you find it, and what was the things you took away from it?
Respect.
Yeah.
The first words after you walk in, you're greeted with an atmosphere of kayfabe. Mm-hmm. Do you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. There is nothing being shown or told to you until you've done the initial hellos and all that. First words to me, if you don't like pain, there's the door, you're going to have to go. You are here, you're going to get yourself hurt. Do you know what I mean? If you can't handle that, get out. And then, just the sheer, they bumped us, taught us how to bump, and then bumped us, battered us. Just, if we come back the next week, they'll show us a little bit more. Do you know what I mean? That's how it works, but you had to have your bumps. I was lucky I had judo as a background. It was hard. There was only about 8 people training in my sector, and only myself got through to go to the shows. It was hard. It was hard, a lot harder than what it is now, unfortunately. Do you know what I mean? I don't mean that badly, but if that hard way initiation was fought through now, there would not be as many wannabe wrestlers in the business, and it will make way for the ones that want to be wrestlers. Do you get what I mean? Because that would scare them off on the first instant. Oh, it hurts too much. Yeah, see you later. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? There we go.
And, you know, going through that system and, you know, taking those bumps and getting to learn a bit more and more and more, and eventually stepping into the ring and making your debut, what was the preparation and the thoughts going through your mind of your debut match?
Oh, there was everything. I worked for Dow Martins, legendary UK company. All of a sudden, I'm sat in the car, I get a phone call, we've got you a show. You get to a meet point, and then all of a sudden you're sat in a car with 3 other professional wrestlers. Do you get me? Last week I was watching these guys on a show, all of a sudden I'm in the car with them. Steve Gray, Mel Sanders and Cyanide Sid Cooper. Whoa. So your thoughts on that one, you don't say nothing anyway. Your brain's racing, your adrenaline's going, because what's going to happen, what's going on when you get there. Luckily I was on with a lad called Phil Flash Barker. He was one of my trainees at Addiscombe in Croydon. The promoter come in and told us what we're going to do, and that was it. No discussion. the promoter told us 2-1 to Flash. I said to Flash, what we doing? And he went, you'll find out when we get out there.
Right.
That's how it works. So your training as the professional wrestler you wanted to be is now coming in. They had full trust in the fact that I knew what I was doing. And that's how wrestling was when we come into the business. Do you know what I mean? When I come in, you learn to wrestle and you'll take your fall and make your fall in the ring. I love that. I love doing that sometimes later on in the career when you get the young ones all confident. What are we doing? We'll talk about it in the ring. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But then that's how much do you want to be a professional wrestler? Professional wrestlers can go into a ring and do that. Get into a ring and just wrestle and put on a show without even thinking about it, off the cuff. But I love that. I love that. And I was very lucky. I was one of the first wrestlers to actually get a fall, even though I lost on my first ever match for Dow Martins, because it never happened. When they brought the newbies in, all newbies would lose two falls to nil in every match for about 6 months, just so that you'll learn the show.
And you know, doing that for 6 months and then eventually winning a match, what was the feeling going through?
See, that was beautiful. That's what you aspire to. When you go through all the training, in the back of your mind, you do see yourself stood on top rope and arm in the air because you're the winner and all that. Back then, it weren't. You're just a referee picking your hand up. You're like, yeah, but thank you very much. But yeah, that cheeky little buzz when the promoter goes, we'll put Jace over tonight. And but in all honesty, the first thing I ever went over properly on was a Royal Rumble. The promoter come in and gave it. We'll have the big man, Steve Gray. He's a legend. If you need to look him up, look him up. He's a TV legend. And Steve Gray turned and went, nah, give it to one of the kids. Let them put them over for this show. And so then the promoter switched it and put me over. Buzzing. But that awkward moment of learning what to do at the end of a rumble. Right. Do you know what I mean? You're not used to that.
No.
You're normally in first, dushed, and then thrown out. Do you know?
Yeah.
Get out, leave it for the professionals. But back then there were big boys in that ring, you know? Big boys. But yeah, that was quite a buzz. That was the good old days. I love that.
And you know, going through and having your matches and trying to find your footing and evolving your character, what was the challenges you had to face trying to develop your persona and as a professional wrestler?
That on my side of things, that took forever, because there was no, well, there were characters, but there was no real characters to what my outcome would be. When my first, I suppose, 10 years in wrestling was being the blue eye, being the good guy. Do you know what I mean? And learning the positioning from that. And then when I transitioned over to being the villain, it was easy for me to be a villain because I knew where I wanted the blue eye to be. Do you know what I mean? Yeah, it took a while, but you study. If you believe in a character, you've got to think of a unique character and you've got to believe in him. There's a very thin line. If you don't have trust in the character or the wrestler you want to be, then the crowd and the other boys and the girls in the change room are not going to feel you either. Do you know what I mean? So yeah, it may take time on certain things, but once I got it, I got it. It's not only, you learn that to be a wrestler is not only being a wrestler. To be a wrestler, you need to be an entertainer. Do you know what I mean? It's not, you don't get into the ring and it's a 1v1. It's two wrestlers, 3 if you include the referee, versus 500. That's what wrestling's all about. Yeah, but you get the right character, you get the right mems around people, you'll go a long way.
And you know, one of the matches that I've seen is you versus Zebra Kid. What was the thoughts going through your mind, and what you take away from that match, getting to work with Roy Knight?
Oh, Roy Knight. See, but I've watched all the nights. When I come into the business, Ricky Knight and Jimmy Ocean were at the top of their game. The Superflies, they UK Superflies, they were the best that can be. Then you got his wife Julia. She was just coming into the business at exactly the same time as me, so we grew up in the business together. And then all of a sudden, there's these little babies bouncing around, and then you got little Roy running around with his mullet, and they're flying around the ring before the show's open. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I can't single them out. I've wrestled all of them, every single one. The ones on I suppose YouTube of Roy. I love working the nights, every single one of them. I've worked Paige, Zach, down to Ricky Knight Jr. when he was about 7 years old, I think he was, on his one of his first ever matches. You buzz when you know that you're going on with another professional. You know you're going to be safe. Do you know what I mean? They are a great family. They all get the business. They understand it. Do you know what I mean? They've got such a legendary status, and the way that Ricky Hutt controls it is great to know. That when you go, yeah, I'm being put on with Zach, or I'm being put on with Roy, you're going, right, I'm going in for a good professional match. Do you get me? That's yeah. So it's a great feeling to work any of them.
And you know, getting the opportunity to work for WAW and being on TV with them, was there any challenges for you from like just going to live stuff and doing?
No, just don't look at the cameras.
Right.
I suppose that's the awkward thing. You know that thankfully it can't be found. But years ago, when we were back in training, we had like the 6 o'clock Friday Night Live TV cameras come down, and I crashed and burnt on that, just because on the sheer fact I panicked that there's a camera in front of me. You need to get over that. But then when you go out there, your adrenaline's pumped enough that you don't even see that the cameras are there. You know, you bypass them. You're there to entertain the crowd, and the cameraman is just another crowd member. But we've done loads of camera work now. But this leads into films and everything. You know, we've done a few cameos in films, loads. But let's not get into that now. I'm losing trail of thought and just drifting off into my own world.
And you know, you eventually evolved a character called Jace.
Yes.
How did that come about, and what was the idea, and what was the thoughts behind making that transition?
On the personal note, Jinx was just a challenge to myself. Going back through my career as a Blue Eye, I was the very happy, clappy, get into the crowd, get them going. The villain, I was more of the Soldier of Doom. I was more of an angry, abuse the crowd. Everything was verbal. And so when I sat and thought, I've always thought about the Dark Clown, because one of the main matches when I first come into the wrestling, when you go onto the seasonal camps, there used to be a comedy match, and then the good guy, bad guy match. And the comedy match, you could always just twist it slightly to make it a little bit darker comedy than what it was. So I always had that in the back of my mind. And then I mentioned to a promoter down on the south at EWW, Stu Allen, I've got an idea, and he was like, we'll do it, and then we'll put it on for the next show, which was like 6 months away. So I didn't really think much about it until about a month before, and then he was like, right, so how are you getting on? We need to promo this guy. And I'm like, okay. So then, yeah, we switched into, I studied this, because there's a very thin line with face paint and a clown to being either awful or people get you, especially if you want to go dark. Do you know what I mean? I turned him into a mute. He said nothing. I wanted to challenge myself on body language. If I could get the same reaction with the crowd just through stance and using my vocals or getting them clapping. So yeah, we studied how dark we could get him, get the right ring music, get the right stances. I used one of the dancers' stances from Michael Jackson's Ghost and Freddy Krueger stance.
Yeah.
Just to feel it, do you know what I mean? But even then, once he was up and running, it still took a while just to get that little darker twist. But it was a good challenge. I liked it, and it worked. It worked. I've stood over a group of mouthy blokes and just shut them down just by looking. It's great. Do you know what I mean? So yeah.
What are some of your favorite matches and favorite opponents that you've wrestled?
Loads. Scott Conway, the Southern promoter, him and another promotion brought over Yokozuna, Earthquake, the Bushwhackers, and some others. And I had just primed myself enough for them to trust me enough to be able to work them. So they were great. But then I've also had long, outstanding, regular matches with the Wild Child Lee Darren, James Mason, Justin Starr, Frankie Sloan, there's so many, and I just love every match as it goes. Do you know what I mean? There are outstanding ones, but none of them are actually Earthquake every time. All of a sudden, he was on the telly. Do you know what I mean? He's been one of them.
Yeah.
They've done storylines with him that we were in Hulk Hogan, and then all of a sudden, he stood in front of me, and I'm about to link up with him. He's about to tear me around the building, and I loved it. It was great. I've had quite a few of them. Quite a few of them. They're good.
What was the ultimate goal you set for yourself that you achieved?
Do you know what? My goals weren't high. My goals weren't high at all. There was a venue in Croydon in London called Fairfield Halls. They used to use it as one of the TV filming places for World of Sport. To see that fall, it was an orchestra part of the building, and it was all tiered down. You had the orchestra pit and the ring was in the middle. It held like 1,200 people on a good day. Because I lived there, that was my regular. Once a month we were going there. That, as I grew up into wrestling and looked down at the professionals doing their thing and then watching the crowd erupt, that's where I wanted to be. That's what I wanted to do. That was my goal, you know. Back then we had no internet, no Facebook, no YouTubes. Word of mouth was the only way that we could promote ourselves. We could phone the promoters and say, can you book us, can you book us? And you wouldn't be able to until they've heard of you from A, another wrestler, or B, punters, when they go around and talk about you. So another great achievement would have been getting a job sheet posted through my door from Dale Martins and All Star Promotions. Do you know what I mean? That's an achievement in itself. But being able to walk away from it is the biggest achievement, with highlights, you know. Right. That's, yeah.
And, you know, making that decision to walk away from it, was it a difficult choice for you?
Yeah. It was hard, but I also have to look on the other side of life, and I'm 44 now, you know. I've been retired from it for about 2 years now, but I didn't feel I was given 100% in the ring, and that's not fair on the people that are paying, the people that I'm on with, and the person that's aching to get the spot where I'm taking up. Do you know what I mean? It was a long, hard decision, but I can't commit to something I'm not 100% in physically, and front of house is the only thing I wanted to dismiss. Leave me backstage where I haven't really got to panic about what I'm doing. I love it. I love every moment of it. But yeah, I don't know. I feel sometimes that I miss it, being being in the ring and doing what I do love doing. But Yeah, there's always that bit. Nah, you're right. I'm alright. Leave me backstage. I want to inspire people with helping them in their career. Now, you know, I've had a very good career. I've had some very, very fun times, long tours, great times. Do you know what I mean? If I could pass what all my peers have taught me, then I'm happy with doing it. You know, but then I've been trained and taught by Robbie Brookside, who's now running it, NXT out in America.
Yeah.
Regal, the Superflies, Danny Boy Collins, all for me my legends that I watched and that on TV, and they told me that knowledge, and I've still got that in my head that I could teach somebody else. You know, so.
What was the challenges that you had to find doing those long travels and those long tours and stuff? Was there any difficulty with it? Was there any challenges that you had to face?
Oh well, yeah. Well, my first ever tour, I went and done a week in Scotland, and I got battered. Years ago, there was sort of like a north and south divide, and I was the only southerner that went up to the north and done all the Northern Isles in Scotland, and every show they battered me. I got knocked out in the ring, woken up, knocked out again. I got splashed by a 30 stone plus heavyweight while I'm all stretched out. But it was a learning curve of coming into the business back then. Again, I survived the week. I stayed strong. Went through the punishment, and then they all had the whip round at the end and gave me all my money back that they took off me through poker. But yeah, a lot of the stories that you hear from wrestlers are always positives. There are negatives. There has to be negatives. But you can't let it get to you. I've wrestled in shows where there's only been 2 people in the audience, and their age added together is 12 years. That's on holiday camps, you know. You get it, it gets you down, but then you look on the positives that you're away with a great group of people. You are enjoying what you're doing, and so you move on to the next show. Do you know what I mean? And then recap on the great memories. It's that. Travelling's hard. If you don't like travelling, it's going to be awkward if you want to be a wrestler. If you want to commit to this business, you got to commit to travelling. Unfortunately. But again, you travel with a great group of people, or you travel knowing that you're going to be with a great group of people. It cuts the journey time in half, doesn't it? Do you know what I mean? So yeah.
Is there any advice for any up and coming wrestlers that you would like to give?
Love the business that you're trying to come into. Respect it. Respect everybody that's been around it before you. Don't just focus on the wrestlers. Listen to the promoters. Love your fans. There's loads. There's 1,001 things. Wrestling isn't just about the moves. It's about entertaining the crowd. It's about doing what the promoter wants you to do. You know, just remember you're part of the show. The show isn't built around you. You are built around the show. And respect it. You do that, respect the promoters will love you, and then you'll go to great places. Like lovely little Kartik here in the UK, bless him, sent by Graham Hughes. Alright, Graham. But yeah, just love it, and it takes you, if you get it right, it will take you beyond wrestling. I said it earlier, we've done, I've had the platforms, I've done shows, I've run entertainment parks, I've done films, I've done, I'm on a record sleeve, and adverts. It takes you places just because you respected what you're going into.
If you had the opportunity to, would you come out of retirement for one more match?
Never say never. It's got to be the right thing, you know. I don't. I've always said, even before creating Jinx, I would quit at 40. I didn't want to be one of these old wrestlers in the ring just hanging on. If the storyline was right, never say never, but it's got to be a good, worth it story. Jinx is still alive in my head all the time. Do you know what I mean? He pops up in the hot one. I'm in the middle of High Street. I just strike a pose. Do you know what I mean? It's random. So he is still there. The wrestling's always going to be there. It's like a drug. If you're in it, you're addicted, and it will stay with you forever. So yeah, let's never say never. If Graham fronts the money and brings me and the wife out to New Zealand, I'll lace my boots up, because he always said he wanted to wrestle me.
Oh, he did.
Come on, Graham.
Do it.
Do it.
He probably will. What is next for Jace DS?
Just to help people. Anybody could ask me anything about wrestling, and if I've got the time, I generally do go out of my way. I'm helping a couple of people out at the moment, trying to find their characters. Yeah, and just if I can inspire people that way, I've had it through the latter part of my career. People come up going, "Oh, you inspired me to wrestle. Thank you for that." That's without me even knowing. So if I could do it knowing, I'd appreciate it a bit more. Do you know what I mean? Yeah, I've enjoyed my time in wrestling, and I'd love to help somebody else do it and enjoy their time as well.
Is there anything else that you would like to say for anyone who gets to watch this episode?
Thank you for watching. If you're training to be a wrestler, just respect it. Love what you're coming into. Do your history. Find out. Entertain us. But yeah, have a good day, and I'll see you soon. Graham, book me.
Yes, do it. Thank you for taking the time out and giving us an inside story of yourself.
No worries. Sorry if I'm babbling.
Thank you everyone for joining us, and I'll catch you on the next episode.